I feel like we're just beating the same dead horse more to death here, but isn't it what you see here, what Paul's talking about, the idea that there are supposed to be those who are competent and teaching? See, Paul didn't think it was just enough to set up a bunch of elders in a congregation, as some of the teachers out there have tried to put forth, and just say, okay, now you do everything in the sort of circles of elders. But it's the idea, look, I want you, Timothy, to take what you've learned from me, and I'm entrusting you to entrust these things to trustworthy men, which means that you need to vet them out, build a relationship with them, get to know them, and understand with the fruit, are they trustworthy men? Are they men of commitment, of dedication? The Spirit leads you to find those teachers that the Spirit is now going to work through. And then help you to understand what those teachers are saying, so that there's a connection in your being when you hear a teaching the truth, and the Ruach is saying, that's it right there. That's what you want to grab a hold of. That's what you want to just embrace. That's it. The Ruach helps you to know, yes, that was it. That's what I needed. Interesting that he says, good soldier. Now, it's interesting how, to me, I would take that maybe in a very different way than most of mainstream Christianity has over the years, because they actually think about going to war. I'm thinking good soldiers are ones that obey orders, follow direction, and are in line with what's going on from headquarters. I think that's probably what he means here. You are a soldier of Messiah Yeshua. You are, yes, sir, up to with what Yeshua says. So he's saying here, look, if you're going to compete in a game, and we've heard many people over the years talk about life as a game, the game of life. So you're competing in this game called life. Well, you're not going to be crowned, you're not going to win, you're not going to be successful unless you compete according to the rules. And so what are the rules of life? I feel, and many of you feel the same, that the Torah is the rules of life. In other words, he's saying, look, there are people that are watching me, watching what I do, see me suffering, see my willingness to suffer for this message, who are going to be strengthened by my level of dedication and commitment. You see, but a lot of us, and I counsel a lot of you, so I'm not trying to read your mail out loud, but a lot of you come to me, and when these things get real challenging, all of a sudden, so does your level of commitment and dedication. And you start to waver. And what Paul is saying here, what Shaul is saying here, is that when things get horrible, you need to get even stronger in your commitment and dedication, because the endurance is the key. So you want true deliverance? True deliverance is getting to the point where you no longer are afraid. You're no longer afraid of what happens to you or is done to you or happens around you. You're just walking forward. That's true deliverance. I don't think I've ever said this before. I believe now that this is coming out, this is how it's coming out of the mouth right now. I believe your level of dedication and commitment is the measurement of how deep your roots are. I think that's a reasonable thing to say. It's not informational. In other words, having more knowledge and information doesn't necessarily give you deep roots. It may give you lots of roots, very shallow. Anybody pull up a plant that's got lots of roots all going left and right, not very deep, and just yank it right up? But there are other plants that have a lot less roots, but boy, they go real deep, and they're hard to pull out. Your level of dedication and commitment, I believe, is equivalent to and represents your level of depth of your roots. So what does it mean to deny him? I think it gets really wrapped up way too simplistically in people saying, I deny that Yeshua is Messiah. No, I think it's a much more complex thing than that. I'm not saying that denying him and saying Yeshua is not Messiah is not part of it. I think that when you don't do what he says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. John says if you say you know him and don't keep the commandments, you're a liar. I think that you're denying him but when you claim to be of him and then do things that are completely the opposite of what he desires. Now, this is, again, one of those verses where Christianity will say, well, because he's trustworthy, it's impossible for him, so we're fine. because he's trustworthy. That's not what it says. It says if we're not trustworthy, that doesn't mean he's not trustworthy. He's going to do what he said. So when we do the things that cause him to see that we're denying him, he is going to deny us. We can count on him doing everything he said he will do. Problem is, we've not been trustworthy to do everything we claimed that we would do. When you declared to be a son of the living Elohim, when you declared to be of Messiah Yeshua, when you declared to come under covenant, you declared to be submissive to the rules of the game. Verse 5. You declared that you would be part. The covenant rules were listed in Exodus 19 when he says, if you agree to do what I say, in other words, play by my rules, I agree to take you as my people. We call ourselves a body. Even Frankenstein wouldn't build anything this messed up. Because we basically have like toes on our hands, we've got fingers on our knees, we've got elbows on our foreheads. I don't know what we look like. You know? I could use other anatomy describing where we could have certain pieces of our body, but I think I'd get like shut down on YouTube or something. But we've got our head in a wrong place, and we're thinking out of a wrong place. And you can laugh, but this is what we're doing. Because why? Because I'm so smart and I'm so right and everybody has to agree with me. That's what every single person out there thinks. And I need to find only places that agree with me because after all, I'm so smart. Because the Ruach called me. And the Ruach teaches me. And come on. That's the verse that gives everybody the excuse to do it their way. Oh, well, I'm just rightly handling the word of truth. Not if you're fighting and arguing and not being submitted to any kind of authority. Because the word of truth is not just figuring out the right calendar or the right way to pronounce the name or other little things that you guys all like to fight about. The word also talks about structure and leadership and submission, meekness and gentleness and love and joy, etc. The word talks about a lot of things other than just being completely, anally right about every little detail. Are people seeing the positive changes in you? Because it's supposed to be from the heart, right? This whole teaching is about the heart. Well, we'll get to a verse that mentions the heart here in a second. But it's all about the heart, right? As your heart changes, can people see you now with that different heart? You see, because if your personality has not been affected, then where's the heart change? We talk about this week after week after week. It's not enough to change the mechanics. Okay, the mechanics. Okay, so I went from Sunday to Saturday. That's a mechanical change. I stopped eating pork. I'm eating better. Okay, I stopped Christmas and Easter. I'm keeping feasts. Those are all mechanical changes. Maybe you had drug habits. Maybe you were sleeping around. Okay, these are mechanical changes. When you stop doing them, what about though becoming kind, gentle, meek, loving, joyful, filled with the Spirit so people are attracted to you and saying, wow, what do you have going on that's changed you from the jerk you used to be into this other person? I need to know what's made that difference in your life. The lusts of youth, meaning before you grew up and matured. It doesn't have to do with just when you were young in physical age. He wants you to flee from them. Okay, that's a picture of strength. It doesn't be like, oh, well, I don't think I like that, and just kind of stroll and maybe look over your shoulder. No, run as fast as you can. Fleeing means that in front of you is something that could kill you, and you're trying to get away from it. That's fleeing. You're running as fast as you can away from it. Flee from the lust of the youth, but pursue righteousness. Pursue what's right. Use this as a lesson. If you don't know if your questions are stupid or foolish, look at the fruit. When you ask them in general, do they cause quarrels? And all of you know what I'm talking about because you'll bring up a certain subject, whether it's divorce and remarriage or the nature of the Godhead or calendars or whatever, or pronunciation of names, and next thing you know, a fight breaks out or a quarrel. And then you act all surprised, even though that's happened 57 times in a row.